Hello and welcome. This interview is part of the series publicizing a 2023 conference of the Committee for Skeptical Inquiry. The conference is called CSICon, and it'll take place in Las Vegas from October 26th through the 29th. If you're watching this video soon after it's published, that'll be just a month or so away. So today my guest is a well-known science guy named Bill Nye. This is what it says about him on the CSICon 2023 site. Bill Nye is an American science educator, engineer, comedian, television presenter, inventor, keynote speaker, and the New York Times bestselling author. As an Emmy award-winning creator and television host, Nye helped introduce viewers to science and engineering in an entertaining and accessible manner, fostering an understanding and appreciation for the science that makes our world work. Today, Nye is a respected champion of scientific literacy, who has challenged opponents of evidence-based education and policy on climate change, evolution, and critical thinking. He currently serves as the CEO of the Planetary Society, the world's largest and most influential non-governmental space organization, co-founded by none other than Carl Sagan. Thanks for being here with me today, Bill.
It's so good to be here with you, Rob.
So not long ago, it was announced that you're coming to the conference to accept the Richard Dawkins Award. And let me read what it says about that from the site. So it says, the Center for Inquiry presents the Richard Dawkins Award annually to distinguished individuals from the world of science, scholarship, education, or entertainment who publicly proclaim the values of secularism and rationalism, upholding scientific truth wherever it may lead. Richard Dawkins must approve the recipient and bestow the award. So the list of award winners is very diverse. There were 19 of them. Previously, you were number 20, and I've actually interviewed 4 of them, amazingly. I think you're the first mechanical engineer to receive the honor.
That's just weird.
So previous winners, I'll read just some of them, last year was Neil deGrasse Tyson, who I interviewed in a similar manner that I'm interviewing you today. Tim Minchin, I would love to meet. Ricky Gervais, Stephen Fry, Jerry Coyne, Eugenie Scott, interviewed this year because she's a speaker at the conference. Christopher Hitchens, Anne Hersey Lee, Julia Sweeney, Penn and Teller, Anne Dryan, and the amazing James Randi. So here's what they say about giving you the award, Bill. We're proud to honor Bill Nye with the prestigious Richard Dawkins Award on Friday, October 27th. Renowned evolutionary biologist Richard Dawkins will present the award in person, followed by a live unscripted conversation between the 2 iconic science communicators on stage at CSICon 2023. You won't want to miss this. So what are your thoughts about all that, Bill?
It's remarkable. To be included with Christopher Hitchens is quite a thing. And James Randi, these are people I've always looked up to, as along with Richard Dawkins himself.
I interviewed Neil last year, and it was a weird coincidence. The day the first James Webb telescope images were released. So of course we had a lengthy discussion in my interview about that. So now Euclid photos are coming out. So what do you think about that? How do its capabilities differ from that of Webb?
Oh, Euclid, well, it's a different machine taking different pictures, so I'm all for it. You guys, we do this exploration of space for whether it's the US European Space Agency or Japanese aerospace exploration or Chinese Space Administration. We do this exploration for a tiny fraction of our national budgets. A tiny fraction of our resources are applied to these instruments, and yet we make extraordinary discoveries. Everybody runs around now talking about Big Bang, talking about black holes, talking about it was a supernova. We use those expressions routinely, and they're based on astronomical or astrophysical discoveries. And they inform us about what I like to call our place in space. And I'm not changing the subject. I'm going on and on. It's very reasonable that in our lifetime, evidence of life on another world will be found. And when that happens, it will be profound. It will change the way everybody feels about being a living thing in the cosmos. And these discoveries are made with these extraordinary space telescopes and ground-based systems and spacecraft sent to other worlds.
There are people who, especially this last year, Congress had hearings on it. There was sworn testimony that we already have aliens in the basement.
I'm a little skeptical of that. I don't know about you, if you know about my background. A little skeptical.
Yeah. So what do you think is driving all of this? Dave Grush got up there as an insider and swears that we have all of this, and there's no reason to look for aliens because they're already here.
Well, okay. And they can't bend their finger. Wasn't that one of them? One of the.
Oh, I like that TV show, The Invaders.
Yeah. So everybody, it's very reasonable that we all want to find evidence of life out there. It's very reasonable that you, as a human, would want to go to another star system and spy on other entities the way you watch Big Brother or The Bachelorette or one of these shows, living vicariously through the lens. But the evidence that we've been visited by aliens in alien spacecraft and nobody knows about it, or very few people know about it, is very, very, very unreasonable.
Well, all right. Since we've gone to the space arena, we have to talk about the Planetary Society and your role.
Right on. Yes.
So, yeah. So for quite a long time, you've been associated with that organization, and people who don't know about it, can you tell them what the Planetary Society is and what it does?
Well, before the elevator door closes, I'll remind everyone that the Planetary Society is the world's largest space interest organization advancing space science and exploration so that citizens of Earth will know the cosmos and our place within it. So we are not a government organization. We have 45, 50,000 people around the world who think space exploration is cool. And we built our own spacecraft. We built 2 light sail spacecraft. Light sails, speaking of trademarks, is trademark. And this is a spacecraft that's so low mass and so big and so shiny. How low mass, how big, and how shiny? It's so low mass, big, and shiny that sunlight propels it. The momentum of photons. Wait, that's pure energy. It can't have momentum. It does have momentum. Light has momentum. You're getting a tiny push from your computer screen right now. And this will propel a spacecraft. So we showed for the first time that you could maneuver such a spacecraft rapidly enough to be in orbit around Earth. JAXA, Japanese Aerospace Exploration Agency, flew the Icarus spacecraft 12 going on 13 years ago. And that was good, but it turned very slowly. It took a whole day to turn just a couple of degrees of azimuth. But we did this with donations from enthusiasts around the world who joined the Planetary Society. The other thing we're really into is we don't want the Earth to get hit with an asteroid.
That would be a bad day.
When I was a kid, there was no such hypothesis. The asteroid wiping out or finishing off the ancient dinosaurs. But now it's the widely accepted idea. And then the other thing we do is we advocate. So next week, before this conference, I don't know when you all are watching this, but the Monday and Tuesday, September 18th and 19th, we'll have people in Washington. And by people, talking about members, not all from the US, we have some Canadians, who go to the US Congress and petition members of Congress, senators, to fund planetary exploration. And we're once again at an unfortunate political turning point or moment or nexus or one of these nouns. Important decision has to be made, and that is Mars sample return. So everybody, there's something called the Decadal Survey, where the National Science Foundation convenes scientists and some engineers about what's the most important thing to do, or important things to do in planetary science, in heliophysics, study of the sun, in astrophysics. What are the most important things? And the most important thing for the planetary science community is bringing these rock samples back from Mars. And the claim for you all to evaluate is that now is the time not only where we can afford to do it. It's not only time that we can do it, it's the time we can afford to do it. So let's do it now. And so on the surface of Mars right now are these Amazo canisters with rock samples in them that have been collected by the Perseverance rover and team, the people driving the Perseverance rover. And so we want to bring them back. And it takes funding, and the proposed spacecraft are huge. They're huge. They're as big as a big car, like they're bigger than an SUV kind of thing, landing on Mars. Difficult business. But as we like to say, space exploration brings out the best in us by solving. So we will be in Congress next week, or I don't know when you're listening, third week of September, petitioning members of Congress and senators to fund planetary science, including the Mars sample return missions.
Fantastic.
Back to you.
So we're talking about robotic missions there. So our previous conversation, I just looked it up, was actually in 2018 when I met you at CSICon. And I asked you about Elon Musk's goal to colonize Mars as a near-term thing. I asked you what you thought about that, and you talked about Sandy the Squirrel.
Yes.
I was clueless regarding who that was because I've never watched SpongeBob. So you were very pessimistic, basically saying it's not feasible in any reasonable.
Well, one guy's pessimism is another guy's get your head in the game.
Yeah. So I'm wondering, has your opinion changed in the last, how many years is that? 5 years?
No. So a couple things, everybody. Words matter. We don't say colonize. We say settle. Colonization has gotten
taking over from other people.
A deservedly bad name. Yeah. But settling Mars, very, very difficult, everybody. One of the things, if any of you go to Mars and you open the spacecraft door, you will notice immediately that you can't breathe. That'll be clear very quickly. And there aren't natives there who are going to offer you to participate in their Thanksgiving feast and stuff like that. I think this idea is rooted in Western or European tradition of colonization. I mean, you could say exploration, but going to other places to exploit resources and just to explore, to find out what's going on. And so I'm very skeptical of colonizing Mars, or rather settling Mars. If I could go there and look around and come back, I'm on board with that. On board being almost literal. But going there to live looks very difficult.
Yeah, let's talk about that almost literal. So by perusing your Wikipedia article, I found out something I did not know about you, that you actually applied for NASA's astronaut training program.
Oh, sure. Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. You were serious about this.
Well, yeah, come on. Flying in space, how cool would that be? But after Krista McCullough got killed in the space shuttle wreck, then nobody like me was going to get a ride, as they say.
So ever since I became an engineer and worked on spacecraft design myself, I had the contention that rocket science, rocket scientist, and rocket science was a misnomer. In my humble opinion, I always thought it should have been rocket engineer.
Oh yeah, rocket engineers, yes.
So most of the mechanical engineers that I graduated with and even went to work with, I found that they became engineers because they were working on their family cars and engines as teenagers. Not me. I just wanted to be Scotty on Star Trek. But most of them were into it for that reason. What sent you down that career path? Well,
bicycles and airplanes, I guess. I love bicycles. I like airplanes. I had a big gearhead phase. I had a Volkswagen Bug for 10 years. I could have the engine out by myself.
There we go.
Less than an hour.
So you're in my list of people who also got, at least partially, because they like cars and engines. Yeah.
So I'll tell you the interesting thing to me, almost fascinating. I through a remarkable mistake in the admissions department at Cornell. That's where I went to college, Cornell University. And I was there last year for my 45th college reunion. And I went down in Upson Hall, the mechanical engineering building, to the dynamometer. Does everybody know that word? It's a treadmill for cars. It's a steel drum you put the rear wheels of the car on and you drive it and there's a system to capture the exhaust and so on and so on. So a big car company has given the mechanical engineering department some forklifts. And if you're a mechanical engineer, forklifts are the most fun you can have. They tilt, they zoom, they go up and down, they lift stuff. They have they steer from the rear wheels. They have all these control systems. Oh my goodness, fabulous. And so there were 3 students down there on their knees, taking these things apart up to their elbows in various lubricants and fuels. And there was 3 women. 3 woman students were taking this thing apart. When I was in engineering school, man, no such thing. So we're going to have twice as many brains solving these problems. Let's go. Think about organizations that don't have women in the workforce. Who gets anything done, if I may ask? The women I work with are so productive, so good. And it gives me a perspective. Back to you.
All right. So switching topics, I talked.
Oh, the Barbie movie is about some of those issues. Yes.
Did you like it?
Oh man, loved it. I loved it.
How about breaking that fourth wall? First time I've ever seen them mention the actress by name who was playing the role on the screen. That was bizarre.
Oh yeah, that was really good. That
right.
The voiceover.
You shouldn't have picked Margot Robbie for this role. If there are spoilers here, people, if you haven't seen it.
She's striking. Yes, back to you.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about creationism. I got to talk to you about this because I still remember seeing you debate Ken Ham, and I remember leading up to it, people were saying, no, you shouldn't do this. Even Dawkins, I think, still maintains it's not a good idea.
Well, he may be right, is what I'd say.
So yeah, I wanted to ask what your opinion is of what the result of that was, looking backwards after all these 7 or 8 years.
Am I allowed to look both ways?
Yes. Absolutely.
So what they did, apparently, this organization that runs the Ark Encounter, manipulated funding so that I perceived that they did not have funding to build this Ark, but with this financial entity called Crosswater Financial or something. Boy, I should know this. It's been almost 11 years. Anyway, they were able to get it funded, and they got these tax breaks, these extraordinary tax breaks from their creationist governor and his board of tourism. And the thing is, that debate has crossed 10 million official views, which almost certainly indicates that it's closer to 30 million unofficial views. And I claim that's been influential. Now, talk about self-selecting or talk about correlation is inviting causation. Countlessly many times, people have come up to me in airports, restaurants, what have you. I watched that debate. Thank you, Bill. So I'm sure people go up to the other side and say the same thing. But what that guy in that organization is doing that's so bad for humankind is their stance on climate denial. Whatever else the people get out of it, misleading his flock about climate change, probably not deliberately. I mean, he's just not very thoughtful about these things, is bad. But having 10 or 20 or 30 million views of that debate, I think, is good. Also, I claim I laid out the process of evolution, I thought pretty clear. I mean, this is me talking about me. I thought pretty clearly over the course of 12 minutes or so. And the business, I addressed the old question for us as skeptics of the gaps. You know, when more fossils are found or the fossil record becomes more complete, it just creates more gaps.
The thing that stuck out with me was the question. I don't remember if it was that during that portion or later, but what would it take to change your mind?
Oh, that's Tracy Moody. She's still an acquaintance of mine. She's an acquaintance of mine. She's very thoughtful. She wrote for Patreon for a long time. And she wrote that question. If you look at the card, she has beautiful handwriting. She's a cartoonist. You know, she's an artist. Anyway, that's just hit the nail on the head. What would change your mind? And he said nothing.
Nothing.
The other side guy said nothing. Nothing would change my mind. Okay, cool. We just can't put you in charge of anything, sir. I am hopeful. Hope's not a plan, but I'm hopeful that 30 million people watching the thing will get something to think about, and a few of them will change their minds.
So some folks, religious folks, say science is just another religion. What do you respond to that with?
No, I didn't. Any other questions? No, but the premise in science, which is starkly different or contrasts with religion. The premise in science is that the universe or the cosmos or reality is knowable. That if we spent enough time, if we were diligent enough, if we thought about things enough, ran enough tests, compared them with enough observations, we would understand the universe, and we could address these two deep questions I always talk about. Where did we come from? And to something you alluded to earlier, are we alone in the cosmos? And those two questions can be addressed with scientific inquiry. Whereas religions claim that there's a portion of the universe, a significant portion of your life, your reality, the world around you, that is unknowable. And those two things, is claiming that it's knowable, is that a religion? Not to me. Religion is when you claim something's unknowable and you accept it and you embrace it and believe in it without evidence.
Okay. So let's talk about something kind of on the fringe there of science. Maybe
the whole thing is fringe, man.
Maybe it's a religion.
Fringe. This is CSICon. Come on, fringe it up.
So I don't think this has ever been talked about at CSICon, although I have seen other presentations on it, and I wrote an article about it, the simulation hypothesis. So I saw a panel discussion where Neil deGrasse Tyson participated, and everyone, including Neil, said it's a fairly likely proposition. What are your thoughts?
Oh, it's okay, Paul. What do you mean by proposition? Let me say it's fairly gigantically unlikely. Everybody, where have you been? Where are the skeptics? You can't prove a negative. Are you high? What is going on here? No, you can't prove that it's, if you can't prove that it's not, that doesn't mean that it is. For crying out loud. Neil, buddy, this is, that's not rigorous. So let me ask us this, which is another atheist kind of, or non-believer question. If we are in a video game, or rather some multi-dimensional amazing game with a galactic over-directed sky grandpa entity running,
or ET alien in his basement.
Yeah, whatever it might be. What would you do differently? Would you start murdering people? Would you sell all your worldly possessions and work to resolve homeless crisis? What would you do differently? And I think that helps us think about that claim that, people talk about, we love to talk about free will, is the claim that free will is programmed into you by this extraterrestrial grandpa guy or gal. Okay, since you wouldn't do anything differently, that for me, it means it Occam's razor fashion, we're probably not in a video game. And I don't think anybody would ask that unless there were video games. So since we have video games, people hypothesize that maybe we're part of a video game. I am very, very skeptical.
Okay. All right. So
talking about extraordinary proof, man.
Final couple questions. Just getting back to CSICon. Are you going to stay for the entire con? You're going to be attending the costume party this time?
So no comment. The costume party, I'm not going to say what I'm going to be dressed as.
Ah, but that means you're coming.
All right. So I'm not going to reveal that in this.
It's 60s, man. It's 60s.
I lived it. And look, I'm fine.
Okay,
I just prefer that music. I'm sorry, you guys. I mean, it's the music you grew up with. It's the music you like.
Okay, so I asked on my Facebook site, because if anyone wanted me to ask you any questions, I know a whole bunch of them, and I'll ask one question.
You can become multiple. What do we call it? Lightning round. Go for it.
All right. I don't know. Some of these will be really hard to come aligning around. How does Bill teach others to be good science communicators, and what are the most important tenets when trying to explain complex subjects? Mark asked that.
Well, understand it yourself first, or convince yourself that you understand it. Maybe you don't, but that's the first thing. And the other thing people ask me, and I'm going to expand on this, thinking that he's asking me a form of this question. Somebody wants to do what the Science Guy show did. We had a whole crew of people who with excellent senses of humor. And
That's important.
yeah, well, it's important for doing it in the style that I did it. But if ask yourself, are you funny? As opposed to just what, Rob? Funny looking. See, that's where I started. See what happened there? Anyway, break it down as best you can. And then on the Science Guy show, we were very disciplined in having what we call learning objectives. And learning objective is a technical educator word, a phrase rather, that means something you can test. At the end of the show, the end of the chapter, the end of the podcast, the end of this interview, you could test the listener. What did you get out of this? That Bill Nye is skeptical. Right on. Good.
Okay. All right. Lightning round.
But open-minded.
Need shorter answers here, Bill. Which living scientist has most impressed you?
Well, Saul Perlmutter and Richard Dawkins have impressed me.
All right. Matthew had to ask a fashion question. Why the bow tie?
Oh, well, a couple things. It started in high school. The boys are the waiters at the girls' athletic banquet. So the girls get their trophies or awards for field hockey, lacrosse, gymnastics, whatever. You know, I thought, well, first of all, I thought if I served this one girl dessert, you know, maybe she'd talk to me. That's what I thought. How that came out, you can evaluate. But anyway, when you're a waiter, you wear a bow tie so it doesn't slip into the soup. And when you're in the laboratory, it doesn't flop into your flask. And then it just became a thing.
Okay. I actually had a friend who, before he got the engineering job, worked at some factory on a lathe, and they had to wear ties. So you're talking about, and
he wore a straight tie working on a lathe?
Yeah, his tie got caught in the machine. He almost got killed. Yeah.
No, that's very dangerous. People.
Well, yeah.
And policemen, officers, law enforcement people do not wear ties. If you ever see Blade Runner, a detective does not run around with a tie on.
All right, so it's no
bad guy.
Dangerous. No. Dangerous. That's the thing. Fall in your soup or get stuck in a lathe.
And if you're a woman, if you're anybody, you don't have long hair near a lathe. My God, my heavens, by the stars.
Yeah. Okay. So, yeah, last thing. How can folks reach you if they want to? You're on the social medias, including TikTok, right?
Oh, I'm on all the electric things that the kids use. Yes, TikTok, the gram, the Instagram, and people talk about X and Mastodon. Those are okay. We'll see what happens. But what's your homepage, everybody? BillNye.com. Of course it is. Yes. And of course you have the Planetary Society app on your phone. Of course, I do. I have all the kids do.
Get that app.
All the young people have the Planetary Society app on the phone. Of course, that's what else would you do? Anyway, guys, I'm very much looking forward to the conference. Thank you for asking me about this stuff. And we've got to continue to fight the fight, get the word out there so that we can change the world for the better.
All right. Thank you so much for joining me today. And I'm looking forward to meeting you again in Vegas real soon.